Okay, it's review time. You spent 2 busy full days kind of cramming stuff into your head. So I want to take the last 20 minutes today, 25 minutes, and I want to do a quick review of everything that we've talked about. Because one of the things, like I said, that you're going to find is that you're going to walk out of this place and you're going to go back into wherever it is that you regularly train, regularly work, regularly read, and everything that you run into, for the most part, is going to be biomechanical thinking. It's going to be non-neurologic, what I call single-factor focus thinking, microscopic focus. My shoulder hurts. Oh, you must have a rotator cuff problem. My neck hurts. Oh, you must have a neck problem. So I want to actually go back and reiterate a few key principles. So, key principle number 1, what system governs the body? The nervous system. We ought to be getting pretty comfy with that. What portion of the nervous system is of most interest to us within this Z-Health lens, especially in the beginning stages of ARFIS? Proprioceptive system. If you had to go back and talk to a client or talk to your spouse about the proprioceptive system, how would you describe it for them? Anybody? What is it? What is proprioception? It's the body's 3D map, so it's an awareness map. What am I going to do with that information? It's not just a map, but it's a map that's related to space and time, us moving through our environment. I use the term clarity all the time because it's such I like it's a precise word. It's a word that basically says, I want you to improve the detail. I want you to improve the understanding. So the words that I typically choose for my clients, I go, listen, everything that we're doing with all these drills is to improve the clarity of your movement map. Because most people can kind of get hold of this metaphor. The example I again use, I use it with you. If I take a map and I put it up on the wall, it is of a certain amount of usefulness based on the detail. If I take a knife or a scalpel and I cut out portions of it, it's no longer the same map that once was there. It is now less clear and less useful overall. Simple enough? And that's a really good way for your clients to think about it. I grew up with my dad growing up. My dad was a map fanatic. So I grew up with cars with like 20 maps in them, with coffee spilled on them, and motor oil. And if they stay in there long enough and the sun beats down on them, what happens to that spot where it had the coffee and the motor oil? It fades. So you know, you're looking for a certain street, and you pull it out, and you're like, ooh. That's the one. It's gone. It has lost clarity. That's the same that happens in the nervous system. Lack of mobility breeds a lack of map clarity. Now, we want to take that information and relate it to our next concept, which is, are we wired for survival or performance? Survival. So, we have lots and lots of reflexes that are driven by our current capacity to survive our environment. The one that we're most interested in is the arthrokinetic reflex. All right? Okay, well, arthro means joint, kinetic means movement, but there was a little pet phrase that we attached to it. Jam joints create weak muscles, mobile joints create strength. Now, it's very simplistic, but it's very applicable. And that's what we did in the groups. That if you have joint mobility issues, you're going to be weaker than you could be. Very, very simple. So jam joints create weak muscles, mobile joints create strength. Proprioception, we also used a really simple tagline to stick in your head. We said this map, this 3D movement map, because it lives where? It lives in the joints or in the brain? It lives in the brain. We said that proprioception is all the body, what? All the time. Which means I can create a arthrokinetic reflex in your little finger, and will it affect muscles throughout the body? Yes. Does everyone understand why? Yes or no? Because it changes the map, but it's still based in survival. Because if I have a joint that's no longer moving well, I need to bring down my total force production capacity to protect it. It's just a hardwiring system to make sure that you don't go and add more force, more torque over something that's already compromised. In the medical literature, if you're interested in looking at this in more depth, I'm going to give you a different term. You can look it up this way. Arthrogenic muscle inhibition. arcogenic muscle inhibition. This is basically being studied in relationship to joint swelling. So you have a knee injury and the joint starts to swell, guess what? Your quads, your hamstrings, your calf, nothing actually can contract as hard. Yeah, not a big shock, but that's basically what we're talking about. So this is a different, slightly different terminology that you may find in the medical literature. So we take all that into consideration and we go, okay, if I want to maximize myself as an athlete, I need to maximize my proprioceptive map. And remember, our very first principle, everyone's an athlete. Even if you don't think you are, we consider you one, so we want you to treat yourself like one. So we need to maximize map clarity. The way that we maximize map clarity is by looking at the proprioceptive system. First, we go, okay, what makes up the proprioceptive system? And we listed off 5 different, there's actually 6 that we list in certification, but 5 different neural fiber types, okay, or nerve endings. What was the most important one? Mechanoreceptors. Mechanoreceptors are our movement receptors. The second one is the nociceptor, noxious stimulus. Then we had chemo, baro, thermo, and then the last one's electromagnetic. So all those different receptor types are constantly being stimulated by our environment, whether I'm moving, whether the air conditioner is blowing on me, whether I'm out in the hot sun, whether I ate something that my body disagrees with, chemoreception, right? Clothing, shoes, baroreception, all those different things are constantly being integrated into my map. So to actually maximize my movement capacity by decreasing this, I need to move every joint through all potential ranges of motion in order to stimulate the maximum number of mechanoreceptors. And that's our phase.